I remember the first time I was freaked out by a game. It was back in the late 80s, early 90s, and it was actually the game Super Mario Bros. 2. And I was at a friend's house, and he was playing, and we were on the level 7-2, and we had just defeated Birdo, and of course we were expecting that big bird's head in the wall to just open its mouth, and you jump through, and out of nowhere this thing just flies at us. And as a little kid, that sort of took me back. I wasn't expecting that. And then there was the second time I was freaked out by a game, some 10 years later. Yeah, when that damn dog jumped through the window. And that was the beginning of my 10 plus year fandom with the Resident Evil series. So here we are. Resident Evil 5 has come out, and it's been interesting watching this series evolve from Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, CVX, 0, Resident Evil Remake, Resident Evil 4, and finally Resident Evil 5. Now, for the one or two people who is not familiar with the Resident Evil series, Resident Evil 5 is a third-person shooter slash survival horror where you basically run around and shoot zombies and freaks and mutants and monsters and whatnot. You get a multitude of weapons to aid you in your mission, as well as money to upgrade these weapons, as well as healing items such as herbs or first aid sprays. You get the idea. Now, for everybody else, Resident Evil 5 plays like Resident Evil 4. Now, of course, everybody knew that. That was what was expected, and so there you go. Now, you play as a team of two people. You play as Chris Redfield and his partner Sheva. Now, it's similar to the scheme in Resident Evil 0 where you played as Billy and Rebecca, where in Resident Evil 0 you could switch between the two on the fly during the game, where in Resident Evil 5 you cannot. At the beginning of the game, you select which character you want to play as, either pick Chris or Sheva, and then there's no switching between the two during the game like in Resident Evil 0. There have been a number of changes that have been implemented in Resident Evil 5. The first being that the camera is now fully controllable, meaning you can see anything from any angle at any time. Another change that has been made is to the health system. When your health bar goes into danger mode, you will become semi-incapacitated and must be either healed or resuscitated by your partner. Likewise, if your partner's life bar goes into danger mode, you too will have to assist your partner, otherwise the game will be over. The inventory system has also been adjusted. In Resident Evil 4, we had a Diablo-type inventory system where a certain amount of items took up a certain amount of space in an attached case, where in Resident Evil 5 it falls back on a more traditional model where you have a set number of slots to put items in. Both Chris and Sheva have 9 slots each in which to put items in. In addition, accessing this inventory is in real time, meaning the action does not stop while you're accessing this inventory, and you can be hurt or killed while accessing this inventory. Resident Evil 5 is a very action-oriented game and has done away with a lot of the problem-solving, the puzzles, and the backtracking that was prevalent in the previous titles of the series. It has a very straightforward, linear progression, and with an on-screen map, you will never be lost or wonder where you're supposed to go. And if you're the type of player that likes to get thrown straight into the action, then this game is for you. One of the biggest selling points to Resident Evil 5 is the online co-op, where you can link up with a friend online and one of you can play as Chris and the other can play as Sheva, and you can play and experience this game together. It's pretty fun, I must admit. I actually played a game with WizWar, and yeah, I had a good time. Resident Evil 5 has a tremendous amount of replay value. The game features a series of unlockables such as extra guns, infinite ammo for each gun, professional mode, and so on. Unlockables can be unlocked in a multitude of ways. Infinite ammo is unlocked by fully upgrading a weapon and then spending points to unlock. Points are accumulated by completing stages, and the amount of points received is determined by your performance rank and difficulty mode.
Points can then be spent unlocking action figures or whatnot. Resident Evil 5 also features an unlockable mercenary mode with more characters and stages than Resident Evil 4. With so much to do and unlock, if you're the ambitious type, you'll be playing this game over and over. One thing that sort of annoyed me was Chris's Gatling gun. Now the thing about this Gatling gun is it comes with this huge ass backpack that constitutes its ammo catch, and the problem with it is it blocks your view. You can't see everything that you would normally see, and it's just freaking annoying. One last thing I'd like to comment on is S ranking stages on professional mode. If you plan on doing this, please find a friend online to play with, because your in-game computer partner is almost useless. The thing about professional mode is one major hit will automatically put you into danger mode. And there have been countless times where I was playing and I got whacked, and my partner said, "Oh, I'm going to help you, just wait." And then instead of actually helping me, my partner keeps shooting at the enemy while I just sit there and die, and it's extremely frustrating. So please, find a friend. I guess now I'll give my final word to wrap up my comments on Resident Evil 5. Overall, I felt the game was awesome. I definitely got my money's worth. I thought that the online co-op was a nice touch. I felt that the real-time inventory system added an element of realism and challenge, which was a definite improvement, and I thoroughly enjoyed the extensive replay value offered by this game. But even with all that said, I feel that Resident Evil 5 has lost a lot of the essence that has defined the Resident Evil series over the years. As somebody who has been with the series since the beginning, I am somewhat of a traditionalist in that I view the whole backtracking, puzzles, and problem solving as some of the defining features that has defined Resident Evil over the years, and that the transition to a more action-oriented game has caused Resident Evil 5 to lose a lot of that essence. I guess really the last point I want to make about losing its essence is that I feel that Resident Evil 5 has a scare factor of 0, which I think at this point in the series might be a moot point, given that Resident Evil really hasn't been scary since Resident Evil 2, and since then I feel that the Resident Evil series has progressively lost its survival horror feel to the point where I'm not even sure that Resident Evil 5 even qualifies as survival horror, and that I would compare its scare factor to a game like Devil May Cry 4. But whether or not losing its essence is a good or a bad thing is purely subjective and a matter of personal preference and opinion, and I'll leave that to you guys to judge. But it is what it is, and that's really all I have to say, and with that, I'll see you later.